In this series, we're talking all about language learning activities using paper. Most of these are really best suited to, sort of traditional group setting, but I do hope for you independent learners there are some takeaways here, and for independent teachers. So this first one is, you know, there's many names for this. I think I've heard it called ring a word or circle it. So basically, if you've got a rough bit of grammar, something that's difficult, this is a good way to help get into it. This CI activity. So you write words all over a piece of paper in your target language and in your native language, and you have them do something with it, right? So the first few times you might just simply be having them, they have to circle it or underline it or whatever with it, right? So that, and then they have to say it back to you. So for example, if I said, bonjour, which isn't a difficult grammar point, of course, but they would circle hello. Um, you know, if I said I go, and they would circle je vais in French. So, but you get the point. So basically, I would save this really for the more difficult stuff, but which of course is all relative because when you're beginning, a lot of things can seem kind of difficult. So they circle the other language and you go over it. Now, once you become accustomed to this, you can even hand these out and have kids do them in pairs, or you know, they do them in small groups and then you all go over the answers. They can highlight. I've seen people do things, they match by, they put the same color highlighter on the same ones that match. They draw lines. They do all kinds of things. And they also make great reference sheets for grammar points later on. So this next one it's really quite fun. Predicting the future for people, right? Practicing talking about the future, whatever structure or structures you want for people to learn, right? Make some predictions about the future. You can predict about your students as comprehensible input. They can make predictions about you. They can make predictions about each other. It's really interactive and really fun. And you talk about, or you can do predictions for a week from that time, and then you get to revisit that. What were the predictions? Did they come true? What will happen in the next week? And you can kind of brainstorm this as a class, and then when that time comes, you revisit it. Did that happen? Now, another take on these last two activities, basically, from writing all over a piece of paper, sort of difficult grammatical structures, and having them, or challenging ones anyway, having them match them up, and this is it true kind of thing. These predictions is taking your students' names and the structures that you want to teach, or the verbs or the vocabulary, and listing out statements about them. So, for example, this person gets up at whatever time. These people go to bed at 1 in the morning. Things that are obviously true or obviously false, or maybe not obviously true or false. It can be likes and dislikes. It can be all kinds of things. And they have to decide if they're true or false. So they're getting CI through this reading and exposure, repeated exposure to these verbs or these grammatical points. And then you go over them as a class. Is it true or not? So it's a great way to sneak in some difficult grammar. So I love alliteration. And this fun activity deals with either names, or they can be adopted names, it can be last names, it can be whatever. And you find an adjective that matches your your name, or whatever it is that you want to match to. And before I get into this, I might even do an acrostic poem with my name, or with the students' names, and they have to pick out some different adjectives. You might want to give them a bank of adjective words, and they make an acrostic poem, and you can add in any kind of elements that you want. Make sure that they've got some drawings, or they use different types of words, or maybe even a verb, or a mix of verbs, and and any of that. So they have exposure to a fair number of words by the at stage one. So they understand the basic rules of, if your language, things have to match in gender and number, or if they don't, or whatever the rules might be. um, they've had some exposure to some different words, and they've used them in an acrostic poem. And then the next step is they're going to choose a word that matches their name, or a name, or an adopted name, or a last name, whatever you want to do. And everybody says their name. So I might be, for example, Nina Notable, for example. I might say something like that. And then the whole class, we try to memorize all of them, and you keep trying to say them. So like maybe I go first, and then somebody else goes second, and they have to say both of those names, and you try to see how long the chain goes. It can be difficult with a big group, so you might want to break it up into smaller groups. But it's fun practice with what can be a really difficult grammar point for a lot of people. You see these here, these feet. Really, it's just a picture I found. I actually have feet that, on sort of cardstock paper, um, trace some feet and cut them out, and then write subjects all over them. I got this idea. I this idea was presented to me in my first year of teaching languages. It was fabulous. I thought really, 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 really clever. The teacher wanted to help the students conjugate verbs, have just a fun activity in conjugating verbs. So did this and put all the feet out on the floor, and then you give them a verb and a tense, and everybody has to walk through and conjugate. And I realized that, conjugating verbs certainly doesn't, equate to fluency in a language, but I do think that some and we will best be most successful in communication by acquiring language naturally. But I do think that an awareness of verbs and some really intentional practice with verbs can help students and any learner master a language. They can be done on your own. Understanding how things work will help you in communicative situations until you've gotten to the point where you've mastered them. It can really help speed the process along. So next week we're going to talk more about paper in language learning classrooms. Until next time.